me twisting. I know I done said a lot, but I should probably stop pretending. I don't really hold the key and I can't really push a button. I just step up to the mic and try my very best to bust it, but I ran out of breath. It's tight in my chest, my feet just might fail. I can't stand up.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Racially Speaking. I'm your host, David Phipps, and welcome to episode 80. Before we jump in, I do a really bad job of doing this, but I'm trying to do better at reminding you guys. But please, before we continue, don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe button or follow button on wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, give us 5-star reviews. If you got a spare 10 seconds, please write a short review for me. It might feel like none of this really actually helps, but every little bit does help. It helps the podcast get distributed to a wider audience, helps them find the show, and especially if you find it helpful, it really helps me out, makes this feel even more worth it. I promise I'm not chasing any kind of notoriety, just asking you to do me a solid. If you like the show, find it helpful, or have ever found it helpful, please take 2 seconds to like, share, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Also, if you'd like to take it a step further, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/racially speaking. And for as little as $1 a month, or just even a one-time donation of $1, you can set it up to be just a one-time thing. For as little as $1, $3, or $5 a month, you can support the production of the show. And that all goes 100% towards producing the show, which, if you didn't know, podcasting does cost money, actually. So help me continue to produce this show. And then the rest is given out to various causes that line up with what we talk about here on the show. All right, so that's enough from me. Thank you for hearing me out on that and for doing that for me, those of you that are doing that right now. So let's jump in. And before we do, let me give you a little bit of an introduction into the topic today. So, look, it doesn't give me any pleasure to introduce today's topic. In fact, I much would have rather skipped this topic. But to be honest, for the integrity of this podcast, this is an OG topic if I think about it as it relates to why I even started this podcast. We're going to talk a lot about police brutality, why it's still so prevalent, especially in the Black community, 6 years removed from the murder of George Floyd. And if so, what can we do about it? Because I understand it might feel a little bleak right now that I'm going back into this topic. But like I said, I it's become a big enough story in the this last week that I didn't feel like I could duck it. I'm actually in between traveling right now. I'm at home for a few days and then heading back out of town, so I wanted to get this out and not leave you guys too long without an episode here. So here we are. It's a very focused episode, one topic, and it's just me. And I'm going to kind of do some not so much free flowing thoughts as I do sometimes on these solo episodes. It'll be a little bit of that, but trust me, if you're watching, I've got some notes written down that I'm going to be going off of. Okay, so that's all the intro you guys need. If you are not on social media much or following the news much and need to be caught up, here's kind of the bare bones where I'm going. There's been multiple videos at this point of the same thing, different angles and different lengths. But Mr. William McNeil Jr. of Jacksonville, Florida, this happened back in February now, but it's just now gone viral, was videotaped from, I believe, his own phone, but then a lot of the footage was also from police body cam. He was pulled over in Jacksonville, Florida by one police officer, and he opens his door as the police officer is approaching, didn't do anything sudden or anything, just opened his door to talk to the officer. The officer is startled. All this is on the video. Officer is startled and says, "Why'd you open your door?" And he said, "Because my window doesn't work." And so that's all he does. He's sitting there in no demonstrative or threatening body language whatsoever, just sitting there saying, "Because my window doesn't work." And he says, "Why did you pull me over?" And the officer says something to the fact of, well, he literally says this. I just want to say something like this because I'm paraphrasing a little bit because I don't have the exact word for word quotes, but he says, "Well, you didn't have your headlights on when it's dark and you didn't have your windshield wipers on in inclement weather." Now, again, if you're not willing to go back and look at this video, that's okay, but you're going to have to take my word for it of what I'm about to say here. In the video, you can see clear as day, pun intended, it's not dark. Most people probably wouldn't have their lights on, and it's also not raining. I saw someone say also that, as the police officers also don't have headlights and windshield wipers on. I can't confirm that because I didn't see that angle, but it's not. That's just, there's no rain and it's not dark. So he says that, and the police officer continues to say, "Show me your license and registration." So Mr. McNeil says, "Call your supervisor because you clearly don't have a reason for pulling me over." And he says, "Okay, now get out of the car." He says, "No, call your supervisor." Officer says, "Get out of your car." Mr. McNeil shuts the door and just keeps saying, "Please call your supervisor." As this is going on, the police officer who has pulled him over you can hear him saying, "Back up, back up." He even says it earlier than that, requesting backup. They pull up within a matter of seconds, his backup, and they start to say the same thing: "Get out of your car, get out of your car." And he's saying through the window, "Please call your supervisor." And then they proceed to say, "If you do not get out of the car, we're breaking your window." And he continues to say, "Look, this is what happened. I don't have." The other officer shows up. He says, "Okay, what happened?" And Mr. McNeil tells him what happened, just like I told you. They said, "I don't have headlights on. It's not dark out. It's the daytime. I don't have windshield wipers on. It's not even raining. So I want the supervisor to be called." So they say, "Okay, go ahead." And they mean go ahead meaning break the windows. So this is where it gets graphic. Not super graphic for those of you who've seen these kind of videos before, but the most graphic part of the video, you have Mr. McNeil sitting in the front seat, essentially like almost looking right into his camera, posted on his or set up on his dashboard. It looks like him just looking in it, saying, "Here we go." Like I feel like you can just read it in his eyes. He's saying, "I don't know what's about to happen." But they break through the window. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't move. If you know what I'm talking about, it's like when the scene of where Matt Barnes fakes like he's going to throw the ball at Kobe Bryant's face in an NBA game and Kobe doesn't flinch. It honestly is like that. He's just sitting there watching it happen. Glass is hitting him in the head. They reach in. Somebody sucker punches him from the side. They drag him out of the car and then proceed to throw his head into the side of the car. I read later that they throw his head into the pavement, cuff him. He chips his tooth, said he got a concussion. He needed stitches in his lip because his tooth went through his lip. All that kind of jazz. I didn't see all of the pavement and head in the pavement stuff because it goes a little bit out of frame. But you can see the punches, the shoving, and hitting into the car. And then in the footage that just came out recently of him speaking publicly for the first time, you can see that his teeth were indeed chipped, unlike they were in the video before he was reprimanded and assaulted. Okay, that is bare bones what happened, and maybe you're thinking this doesn't sound like it's worthy of a full episode. I hope you're not thinking that, but if you are, that's okay, because we've definitely talked about worse incidents. Of course, Mr. McNeil is alive, and I hesitate to say but in a sense, if he's alive and physically fine, which is not what we can say for so many others that have been in these exact same scenarios. But I wanted to talk about this because, like I mentioned at the beginning, Many of us, I'm saying us, myself included, it was a big wake-up call in a lot of ways back in 2019 when George Floyd was murdered. Right? Yeah. And I think rightfully so, a lot of us started to engage then. That's not exactly when I started, but it was a big turning point of when I kind of knew there was no turning back. But I think two things have happened since 2019 and 2020. One is that we're just fatigued. We don't want to talk about this stuff anymore. And that is, we are human. And I'm here to say that that is completely understandable. And the second thing I think that happens is that, maybe three things, but the second thing is that we've made ourselves subconsciously believe, many of us, not myself, I'll say that, not myself with this one, but made ourselves believe that things have changed, that this stuff isn't happening as much, that the murder of George Floyd, the awareness, the racial reckoning, the legislation that was brought up has changed things, and that this stuff isn't happening at the alarming rates it was happening. And then I think there's obviously people that don't care or try to explain it away the whole time and are still trying to do that. I think that this video explains all of these things away clearly. Like, I don't know if it could be more clear. And I posted, if you follow me on social media, I said this in my stories. Something, I talked about the video and I said, pretty much, it's a free country, right? For now. It's a free country. No one has to watch this video or any of these videos. But I will say, if that's you, if you can't stomach looking at these videos, or you just cannot stomach looking at violence, that's fine. That's completely human and understandable. You don't want to look at that kind of stuff. That's fine. But you can still be active. You can still speak up against this kind of stuff. But what you can't do is not opt to watch these videos and try to explain them away. You can't say they didn't happen, or these things don't happen, or that they're fabricated, because you didn't watch. You're not engaged enough to watch. You cannot watch and still be active and give Mr. McNeil and people like that benefit of the doubt. Give me the benefit of the doubt. But you can't opt to not watch and then explain them away. You just cannot do that. It's not fair. You can't do that. Okay? Can't have it both ways. However, on the note of the video, I also said this on social media. I actually think this video, and I hesitate to say this because I watched a lot more gruesome stuff, and I don't make it a habit to watch. I don't watch all these videos that come out, but some of them I just feel like I have to, for the integrity of speaking up about some of this stuff. But I think this is actually, if you don't typically watch these videos, is a good one. I'm doing air quotes because it's not good, but it's a good one to watch if you don't typically watch, because it's not fun, but no one gets killed. It's not super gruesome or bloody. And it's clear, audibly and visually, of what happens. There's nothing really left to the imagination. There's nothing to explain away, unless you just think that the video was some robot AI like thing. But like, there's nothing left to the imagination. It's super, super, super clear, audibly and visually, what happened. You can see everything. I say that because sometimes I just think, and I'm speaking from my own experience, spending most of my life not having watched these kind of videos, being subject to this kind of thing happening, it truly is life-changing, seeing even just one, realizing, oh man, this stuff is real. Even if subconsciously I was not taking it seriously, seeing something like this is, okay, this is happening. Now, here on Racially Speaking, I have a pretty wide, WIDE, audience. I'm not bragging about numbers. I just mean demographically. I know a lot of white people listen. Love y'all wanting to listen and learn. And have a lot of people of color. And I want to try and speak to both. I want people to learn how to engage and listen and learn about something that mainly my white audience, learn about things that you are not privy to or haven't experienced and never will experience. And then to my people of color audience, especially the Black community, I want you to hopefully feel seen. Hopefully I'm doing a good job at having you guys feel seen by having me bring some awareness to some of these issues. Okay. So here's some of my thoughts on this whole thing. This man was pulled over. The police gave him, in my opinion, bogus reasons for pulling him over. Non-reasons, right? Non-existent ones. They call for backup, smash his window, allegedly even give him a concussion, chip his teeth, and he has to get stitches, right? All while William McNeil Jr., I left out the junior earlier, looks into the camera, is calm, and takes it literally on the chin. You know, I think maybe we could even call him a hero. I think we should consider that. I don't mean having a big ceremony and calling him a hero, but here's the difference. Here's what we miss a lot of times. Too many of us revere George Floyd as a hero. He was not a hero. He should be mourned, grieved, and respected because of what he went through, but he's not a hero. A hero is somebody who willingly sacrifices himself for something or someone, for the common good. Martyrdom, right? This George Floyd was not that. He was tortured, brutalized, and murdered and killed for no reason. Okay? That's not a hero. I'd argue that a William McNeil is at least closer to what we would think a hero is because of what he did in this video. Being willing to demand his rights, willing to sit there, not fight back, knowing he's being recorded, not knowing if he was going to live, but looking in the camera. Yeah, that could have so easily been the last looks he gave to anything. And I thank God so much, as him and his family did, that was not the case. But it could have so easily, so often it is the case. So easily it could have been him looking into the camera and us today saying, wow, thank you. Thank you, William McNeil Jr., for risking it all, giving it all for your community, and for more awareness about police brutality to be put in the mainstream media again. Shouldn't have to be that way, but that was heroic in my opinion of what he did. George Floyd was a murder victim, as was Philando Castillo, Stoney Massey, Eric Garner, Elijah McClain, just to name a few, right? He knew what was going on. He knew what was at risk and risked it all. I think these cops had some true audacity, knowing that they were being filmed and that there would be body cam footage. They had to have seen his phone filming them. I can't stand it when the body cam footage just magically goes missing in these cases, but I also can truly not understand how they can know they're recording what they're doing when they're doing these kind of things, unless they think and assume that there's not going to be a consequence somehow. I truly I don't get it. I don't get it. I know a lot of pushback classically in these cases is that you tell someone, well, just comply. In this case, I'll say he did comply. There was absolutely no need for them to punch him and jump him when they pulled him out of the car, which was wrong in the first place. But he did comply, and look where it got him. And also, telling someone just to comply, who do you usually say that to? A hostage, right? Just comply and you won't get hurt. I was thinking about this in a relatable way for myself, obviously not being black. But one of the young black guys I mentor, actually, I don't have his permission to share this by name, so I'm not gonna say any names. But he recently told me that he gets pulled over all the time. And I was actually surprised because he never brought that stuff up before. And he kind of just said it off the cuff because he's not justice-minded, justice-oriented like I am. That's great. That's fine. But he said, yeah, I get pulled over for no reason all the time. I got pulled over the other day for I had my window rolled down, was talking to somebody out the window, like at a stoplight. He said he's gotten pulled over just driving to a parking lot and parking. Them saying he was driving too slow. I think in inclement weather, actually, ironically. And thank God nothing's ever happened to him, and it's never gone further than that, but it happens all the time. I say that not to make myself relate to it, but hopefully some of you guys relate to it, especially my white audience. This isn't just a mainstream issue that is made up. It's really happening. And it's been happening for, I hesitate to say for forever, but for forever. As long as I can remember. It's a normal thing. And I just wanted to highlight that people who you would assume this isn't happening to, it really probably is. I consider myself pretty hyper aware of this issue, and I was even surprised to hear it from some of the people I hear from regularly. I'm gonna wrap this up here in the next few minutes, but I just want to get some data and you don't just get all my feels on this episode, but here's some of it. I mentioned George Floyd, I mentioned 2019, 2020. I know those are trigger and traumatic things to bring up because of COVID and whatnot, but did you guys know that since George Floyd's murder, police killings have only gone up, not down? Did you guys know that? According to the New York Times, last year the police killed at least about 1,300, a little over that, people, which is an 18% increase over 2019, the year before George Floyd was killed. This is according to analysis by the New York Times, drawing on data compiled by the Washington Post and the nonprofit Mapping Police Violence. And furthermore, Derek Chauvin, that name should ring a bell if you listen to this show, but the officer who knelt on Mr. Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes as he gasped for air was convicted and sentenced to prison, along with 3 other officers who were on the scene. But even as the number of police killings has risen in the years since, it has remained exceedingly rare for officers to be charged with crimes for those deaths. So even as the number of police killings has risen since Derek Chauvin knelt on George Floyd's neck for over 9 minutes, it's remained exceedingly rare for officers to be charged with crimes for those types of deaths. So at the most, nothing has changed with that statistic, and probably has gotten worse because killings have gone up. Okay. A little more. Last year, for example, 16 officers were charged with either murder or manslaughter in a fatal shooting, the same number as in 2020, according to data tracked by Philip M. Stinson, a professor of criminal justice at Bowling Green State University in Ohio. So 16 officers were charged with either murder or manslaughter in fatal shootings, the same numbers in 2020, right? But it's exceedingly rare for them to be prosecuted. I mean, it says exceedingly rare for officers to be charged with crimes for those deaths, not just convicted, but charged. It's also true that, of course, Black people are killed at a disproportionate rate by the police. White people make up between 60 and 75% of the population, while Black people make up 13. Yet still, Black people are still killed 3 times more often than white people. This is all according to the New York Times, as well as data collected by, what did I just read? I want to make sure I read it again. The nonprofit Mapping Police Violence. There's more nuance in all of this that I won't unpack fully here, but there's a lot of evidence, and I'll tag this in the show notes, to show that that across red and blue states. So in the red states, and even as it correlates to Trump's presidency, killings have gone way up at the hands of police. And in some of the blue states, or states won by Kamala Harris, it's not an endorsement, it's just the objective statistics, killings have gone down. That's not 1,000% proof that this is the only reasoning, but I will say in those states, in the red states, there's a ton of pushback on gun control, and there's a ton of pushback on police reform. Hard not to call a spade and see the direct correlation of more people dying at the hands of police. And then in the blue states, where there's support for those two things, gun control as well as police reform, killings have gone down. That's all I'm saying. All right, last, the George Floyd Policing Act that was brought up in 2021 that was supposed to be the fruit and the saving grace of George Floyd's death. The George Floyd Policing Act, or George Floyd Policing Reform, I think it's officially called the Act, but it was to help police reform. Do you know what happened to that act? It never passed. Nothing happened. It didn't get through the Senate, and largely it was not passed because of alleged disagreement about qualified immunity, which was the main purpose of the act, is police accountability, and it couldn't get passed. So I'm not just here to say everything is bleak and sucks and let's throw in the towel, but I am here to say that it should be more than concerning that here we are 5 or 6 years later after George Floyd's death, and this is what we have to show for it. It feels bleak. It does. But just as much as the Policing Act and change has been blocked by people and legislation and voting, that shows me that it can go the other way as well. And that's what keeps me going in some of this. This act was to ban chokeholds, which are still happening. People are still being choked to death. Ban no knock warrants, like what happened with Breonna Taylor. Those are two of the big things. Along with qualified immunity. I'll end with this. Naturally, this is going to come up, and our friend Vicki Willis said this last episode, but she brought up the bad apples metaphor, right? I understand this metaphor, right? Bad apples are the exception. They're not the norm, right? That's what a lot of people that resist or speak up against police reform want to say. Well, these are just a couple bad apples. It's not all cops. I get that. I'll say two things though. One, how many more bad apples are you guys willing to let come to the surface before you acknowledge that it's not just a couple bad apples? And two, I agree. I'm going to call the police when I need help. Okay? I agree. This does not mean all cops are bad. I think it's extremely reductive and dismissive and immature reaction when this stuff keeps happening to say that. If that's still you, if someone listening is still saying, oh, these are just bad apples, let's move on. Because that's getting old, real old. But as I said, Vicki Willis said on the last episode that the same people that say, oh, well, those are just bad apples in these scenarios are the same ones that aren't willing to say that about immigrants, right? Or the Black community, right? We're just fine labeling them as one big group of criminals. Get them out, right? Get them in jail. Dude, get them out of our country. Go back where they came from, right? Scoop them up. So that metaphor falls apart. Okay, that metaphor falls apart if that's what we're going to stand on with this. All right, that's enough on this. What I do, half hour? Yeah, about a half hour. Look, guys, this stuff, these are the kinds of things we can help change by voting, by being informed, by knowing who are around, by sharing stories, by hearing stories from each other, by just being informed. There are ways to be informed, even in an inundated, over stimulated media place in society, right? It can change, and I wouldn't still be doing this if I didn't think it could change. But look, please stay informed. Don't just carry on business as usual when lives are at stake. I'm always going to say that conversations about justice, and in this case racial justice, are life and death. And in this case, thank God that Mr. McNeil, William McNeil Jr. did not see death that day. And I hope that he sees some justice and gets what he deserves. And most of all, I hope that these statistics, next time I talk about them, are far different. Far, far, far different. All right, that's all I got. Thank you guys for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, please. If you're watching, you can see me doing prayer hands. Please do that for me. The music you're listening to or about to hear is done by our guy Dylan Dent. My artwork or logo is done by Ashley Bush. And I'll see you next time. Peace.
Life in 3 dimensions got me bent and got me twisted. I know I done said a lot, but I should probably stop pretending. I don't really hold the key and I can't really push a button. I just step up to the mic and try my very best to bust it, but I ran out of breath. It's tight in my chest, my feet just might fail. I can't stand the pressure. The nightmare might scare you, no worse than reality. They hunt you by day, R.I.P. Ahmaud Arbery. Everybody got a time, but that's less than comforting. I hope I'm alive by the time they choose to comfort me. Mosquitoes in the vein, or leeches on my soul. This money on my mind is a fracture in my bones. You get crippled by continuing existence like a ghost. And they wonder why we drink, and they wonder why we smoke, and they wonder why we think that everything's a joke. I'm shocked that we can sleep, must be the thought of letting go. Now I lay me down to sleep, I'm fed up with the valley. Now I lay me down to sleep, I'm fed up with the valley. Now I lay me down to sleep, I'm fed up with the valley. Now I lay me down to sleep, I'm fed up with the valley.